Hi everyone, welcome to Network Configuration Manager free training session part 2. In today's session, I will be learning about the remaining features in Network Configuration Manager 2. We will be learning about configlets, compliance, role-based control, and reports feature. Myself, Naveen, and I am the product expert of Network Configuration Manager 2. I'm happy to inform you all that I have been working with Manage Engine for more than 5 years, and it is a wonderful experience for me. And I'm glad to have this opportunity to bring you this presentation on our network configuration manager tool. So before we start up with this training session, let me give you an overview about the topics which we are going to discuss today. So first, we'll be discussing about the configlets feature in NCM and their uses. And followed by that, we'll be discussing about the compliance feature. And then we'll be discussing about role-based access control, and then followed by that we'll be discussing about a schedule feature, and at last we'll be discussing about the reports and the various integrations which are supported in network configuration manager too. So let's start with our first topic of today's session, which is configlets. So what are configlets and their uses in network configuration manager too? Having a large number of network devices, it will be difficult to perform a configuration change by logging to each device individually, as it requires more time to get completed. With the help of this configlets feature, we can create an executable command script based on the command sequence to be executed on the device CLI. And that configlet script can be executed simultaneously on your multiple network devices to perform the configuration change. So configlets are mainly used for troubleshooting the faulty devices and fixing it remotely by executing the commands. Also, it will help you to push any new configurations or changing the configuration on multiple network devices. Now consider, for example, a user needs to configure SNMP v3 for a certain number of network devices. So in this scenario, the user cannot be logging to each network device via telnet to do the configuration, as it will be a hectic process if there is a large number of network devices in your environment. So consider you have 50 network devices or more than that, then the user will be finding difficult to log into each device to perform the configuration. With the help of this configlets feature in Network Configuration Manager, you can perform this SNMP v3 configuration by performing a single click. Thus, it can save a lot of your time and manual work. So how we can add the configlets in Network Configuration Manager? So moving on, we'll see about the three execution methods to add and execute a configlet. So we have script execution mode, and then we have advanced script execution mode, and followed by that we have file transfer mode. In the upcoming slides, we will be discussing in detail about each configlet mode one by one. So first, we'll see about script execution mode. In this mode, the commands are executed in a sequential manner for the devices which it has been associated with. We can make use of this script execution mode to do some simple operations such as enabling or disabling the SNMP on your device configuration, or configuring interface bandwidth, or performing IP address configuration. So to do some basic operations, we can make use of this script execution mode. So moving on, we'll see about a sample of script execution mode. So as you can see on this slide, on the left hand side, we have the command sequence screenshot executed on the putty. And on the right hand side, we have the screenshot of the configured content to be provided in Network Configuration Manager for this command sequence. So let me show you how it has to be created in Network Configuration Manager GUI. So let me switch over to GUI. In order to go to configlets, you have to click over config automation. In Network Configuration Manager, we have two types of configlets. One is the CLI configlets and the another one is the REST configlets. So the REST configlets are supported for certain device vendors such as FortiGate, Arista, Palo Alto, etc. However, we are planning to extend the REST configlet support to other vendors also. So for now, we will concentrate on CLI configlets. So how to create a CLI configlet script? We will see from the scratch. In order to create up a new configlet, you can click over the plus icon at the top right corner. So here you have to provide the configlet name, and then you will be requested to select the execution mode. So as we discussed earlier, we have three modes of config. So we have script execution mode, and then we have advanced script execution mode, and then we have file transfer mode. So based on the operation which you're going to perform via these config, you have to choose the execution mode. And then you can select the device vendor. So the config script which you're going to create, it should be available to all the device vendors, or it should be available only to a specific device vendor, can be selected over here. And then you can provide a description. So this description will help you to track the config which you're creating, a short description about why that config has been created, what it will do. So you can provide a short description over here. And then under config content, you have to provide the exact command sequence which has to be executed on your device CLI. Once you have provided the config content, then you can make use of this option to perform the configuration backup. So by clicking over perform configuration backup, what NCM will be doing is it will take a configuration backup before executing the config script and after executing the script, so that you can make sure that the configuration backups of your device has been taken before performing any change on the device. So now let me show you a sample of a script execution mode. Consider this particular config script, enable SNMP v1 or v2 for Cisco device. So this is a sample script to enable SNMP on Cisco device vendor. Here we have provided the config name, and then we have chosen the execution mode as script execution mode. Since it is specifically designed for Cisco device vendor, we have chosen the device vendor as Cisco, and then we have added a description about this config. So what its use is. So we have provided the description for the config, and then we have the command sequence. So this command sequence will get executed once you execute this particular config script. Now, if you want to execute this script on your networking device, you can click over execute, and then you will be requested to provide the value for these variables. So read only community and read write community, you can provide the values at the running these config script. So if you are using a unique value for all your networking devices, you can select same value for all devices. Or if you are going to have a different value for each networking device, then you can choose this option, a different value for each device. Once you select this option, you will be requested to import the file with the device details along with the values which you are going to update. So in this format, you have to upload the file, and you can have a preview also. Once you have uploaded that file, you can click over preview, so that it will list all the devices for which the corresponding value is going to be updated. It will provide you a preview, and then you can just click over execute, so that the command sequence which I showed you earlier will get executed on the selected devices. So this is a manual method of script execution. Also, we do have options to schedule this operation also. So consider if you want to perform this activity automatically by NCM, then you can click over schedule over here. So here you can provide up a schedule name, and then here you can choose the report file type. So at the end of this config execution, you will be provided with the config report. So you can choose the file type of that report, whether it should be in a PDF format or it should be in a CSV format. So you can choose the report type over here, and you have to do the same process, like providing the values for the variables which you have declared, and then you can select the devices. So on which specific device you have to run the script with. So you can provide the device selection, and then you will be requested to provide the email address. So the reason why we ask you to provide the email address is to notify you about the schedule status. At the end of the schedule, you will be provided with the report with the information about how many devices has been scheduled for config execution, in which how many of them got executed successfully, and then how many of them got failed. So all those details will be sent to you as an email. So that is the reason we ask you to provide the email address. Once you have provided the email address, you can choose the schedule when it has to be executed, whether it has to be executed only once or on a monthly basis. So as per the schedule recurrence which you are configuring over here, the commands will get executed. So this is about the script execution mode. So moving on, we'll see about the next execution mode we have, which is advanced script execution mode. There might be certain conditions where the prompt gets changed after executing a particular. or when there is a user confirmation like yes or no to be provided after executing a command, or to stop the command at the middle of execution if any error occurs, or to extend the time value for a particular command. So in this cases, we can use the advanced script execution mode. So let me move on to show you the sample example. So on the left hand side here, you can see the screenshot of the command sequence executed on the putty to perform the image file transfer. Whereas on the right hand side, we have the screenshot of the configured content to be provided under advanced script execution mode in network configuration manager. So let me show you over the NCM GUI. Consider this particular configured script. So it is used for taking the backup of the image file from the Cisco device. So if you want to review the command sequence used on this particular configured script, you can just make a click over here and you can review the command sequence. So NCM will connect your device CLI and it will execute this command sequence. Copy flash colon the image file name from the device. Followed by that, it will provide the TFTP server IP address and then the destination image file name. So if you want to run this script on your networking device, you can click over execute and then you can provide the source image file name which is present on your networking device. And then you can provide the TFTP server IP address as NCM installed server IP address also. In NCM, we have our own inbuilt TFTP server which will be running at the background. So you can provide the NCM installed server IP address and then the destination file name. Once you have provided, you can select the devices and you can click over execute so that the image file which is present on the device will get transferred to the NCM TFTP server. So this is a sample for the advanced script execution mode. Moving on, we'll see about the last execution mode we have, which is the file transfer mode. In file transfer mode, we can perform the entire configuration, both the startup as well as for the running configuration can be pushed to selected network devices. So you can copy the entire configuration of a device and paste it on the configuration content and you can get it executed via this file transfer method. So now we'll go back to the GUI to show you how the entire configuration of the device can be pushed. So let me go to inventory. Let us take a Cisco device now. So here, consider now I want to push this particular version of the backup, version 1378. So I want to push the content of this particular backup via the file transfer mode. So I'm just copying this entire configuration. Now I can go to config automation configlets, CLI configlets. We can create up a new configlet. And then here you have to choose the execution mode as file transfer mode. Now under configured content, I will be providing the entire configuration. And once I click over save, the configured will get created and then I can directly execute that so that the particular backed up content will get pushed to the device configuration. So let me show you an example which we have predefinedly created. So this is a predefined configured script which has been created to perform the configuration upload. So like this, you can paste the entire configuration and you can push it to your network devices. So this is about the configured feature. So if you have any questions, you can just comment it on the chat so that we have our panelists available to answer all your questions. So moving on to the next topic of today, which we are going to discuss is about compliance. So why do we need compliance and how it can be used to safeguard your device configuration? With having large network devices, it is always recommended to review the device configuration on a regular interval and to check whether the configurations are created as per the standards. Checking this manually will be a difficult process as it requires lots of human effort and it takes time to get completed. With the help of this compliance feature in Network Configuration Manager, We can check whether the device configuration is created as per the organizational or industry standards. So moving on, we'll see about why compliance and what are the default compliance policies available in Network Configuration Manager tool. So as we discussed earlier, compliance will help you to review the device configuration. Thus, by performing it, we can avoid any loopholes or vulnerabilities in the device configuration. Also, we can avoid any legal consequences also. In NCM, we have some of the default policies to check the compliance of your network devices. By default, we have Cisco IOS policy, and then we have HIPAA policy, and then we have SOX policy. Followed by that, we have the PCI policy. So for creating a customized compliance policy, you have to create custom rules first, and then you have to group those compliance rules, and those rule groups are associated to the policies. Now, once you have created a customized compliance policy in NCM, you can associate it to your network devices so that NCM will perform a check against your device configuration with those policies which you have created, and it will trigger a violation if it doesn't match the criteria. There are two ways to create the custom rules in Network Configuration Manager. So we can clone an existing compliance rule to create a new one, or we can add a new customized compliance rule. So there are three criteria to add a compliance rule. They are simple criteria, advanced criteria, and advanced custom criteria. We will discuss in detail about all these three criteria in compliance in the upcoming slides. So moving on, we'll see about the simple criteria. So here we can create simple rules by defining the following conditions: whether the configuration content provided in Network Configuration Manager should be contained on the device or should not be contained on the device, or it should be on the exact set. So like that, you can specify the conditions with the help of the simple criteria, and you can perform the compliance check. Also, here we can check the number of times the specific content to be present on the device configuration. That particular limit can also be set, and we can perform the compliance check. So let me show you on the GUI how we can create up a compliance rule and how we can perform the check. Going back to the GUI now. So once you click over compliance, you will be having three tabs. So the first tab, which is known as policies, it will list all the compliance policies which you have created in Network Configuration Manager. So as I said, we have three default policies over here. So we have Cisco IOS policy, and then we have HIPAA policy, and then we have SOX policy. So these are all the three default policies. Apart from that, you can create your own customized compliance policy. So in order to create your own customized compliance policy, as we saw, we have to create the compliance rules first. So let me go to rules. So as you can see here, we have a list of compliance rules which are created. So these compliance rules will be grouped together and it will be associated to a policy. So for simple criteria, let me show you an example so that you will get an idea about how this compliance feature works in Network Configuration Manager. Consider this particular rule, no console logging. So in this particular compliance rule, NCM will be checking the device configuration for this particular line, no logging console. So if this particular line is present on the device configuration, then NCM will consider that particular device as a compliance one. Suppose if this line is missing over the device configuration, then NCM will consider that particular device as a violated or a non-compliance device. So like this, you can create your own set of rules also. So consider now we are going to create up a simple criteria rule. So you can choose the criteria as simple criteria, and then here you can specify the condition, whether the configuration content which you are going to provide, it should be contained or it should not be contained, or it should be on the exact set. So like that, you can specify the condition over here, and then here you can choose the recurrence of the line. So how many times that particular line should be present on the device configuration. You can specify the recurrence. And once you have provided the configuration content, which has to be validated, you can just click over next, and then you will be requested to provide a rule name, and then you have to provide a description which is for your reference. You can provide a short description about that particular compliance rule, and then you can set the severity for that particular rule. So if that particular rule gets violated, what should be the severity? So it should be a major, or it should be a warning, or it should be a critical one. You can set the severity for the violation, and then you can configure the remediation configlet as well. So what is the remediation configlet is when NCM runs a compliance check and finds out any violation, then we can set this remediation configlet to execute the commands on the device to make it as a compliant one. So let me show you an example for which we have configured our remediation configlet. Here we have a compliance rule, no public community, for which we have configured the remediation template. So we have associated this particular template. Now by just clicking over this particular template, I can execute the commands on the selected devices, and once I click over execute, NCM will execute the commands instantly to make that particular device as a compliance one. So it is always recommended you to create a remediation configlet while creating a compliance rule so that NCM can perform the compliance check. And if it gets violated, you can instantly execute this remediation configlet to make it as a compliance one. So this is about the simple criteria. Moving on, we'll see about the next criteria we have, which is advanced criteria. So here in advanced criteria, you can use regular expressions along with the conditions such as whether the content should be contained or the configuration content should not be contained, etc. Also here, you can use and or feature to create compliance rules using which you can create multiple conditions on a compliance rule. So let me show you on the GUI with the example. Consider this particular compliance rule, so which has been created under advanced criteria. So here we have set the condition whether the configuration line should be contained or it should not be contained. We have specified the condition over here, and we have used the regular expressions along with the string which we are going to check on the device configuration. So enable secret with regular expressions. So like this, you can create the advanced criteria and you can perform the check on the device configuration. Moving on, we have the last criteria, which is known as the advanced custom criteria. So it is also known as block-based criteria. Here you can provide the regular expressions along with the conditions as like advanced criteria. And additionally, you can specify the configuration block in which the compliance check has to be performed. So it will be a mixture of advanced criteria and advanced custom criteria. Let me show you on the GUI with a live example. Consider this particular compliance rule, so which we have created under advanced custom criteria. So here you have to provide the config block start line. So here we have mentioned as interface, and we have mentioned the config block and as exclamatory mark. By providing this configuration block, here you can provide the additional block criteria. What is the condition which has to be checked additionally? So you can define the condition whether it should contain or it should not contain. So if you don't want any additional block to be checked, you can choose none as well. Now I have chosen here a shutdown, and post this I am providing the condition. It should contain the line description. So this content particular compliance rule has been created for the configuration content, which we have over this slide, which is for checking the description of the interface. So consider you are having up a network device which has lot of interfaces, and if you want to check whether the description has been configured or not, you can make use of this advanced custom criteria. So here we have provided the interface as the start line, and we have provided the exclamatory mark as the end line, and we are checking whether the shutdown is present or not. So if the shutdown is present, then NCM will not perform the further check. If the shutdown is not present, then it will check the description. So if the description is present, then it will mark that particular device as a compliance one. So like this, you can configure the advanced custom criteria to perform the compliance check. So these are all about the compliance feature in Network Configuration Manager. Moving on to the next topic of this training session, we will discuss about the compliance reports. So the compliance reports will provide you a detailed information about the devices which are compliant and the devices which are not compliant. Also, it will give you the information about the last compliance check when it was performed on your networking device. So let me show you an example of compliance report. Once you go into reports, we have a dedicated report for compliance, which is compliance report. So this report will give you the information about the devices which has the violations and the devices which are compliant. Suppose if any device got violated, you can just click over that particular networking device. So it will list all the policies which are associated to that particular networking device. And once you click over any specific policy, it will provide you a detailed information about how many rules are compliant, how many rules got violated. So you can click over the violated rules and you can check the line which is missing over the device configuration, so that you will get an idea about what are the changes to be performed on the device to make it as a compliance one. So this is about the compliance report. Moving on, we'll see about the role-based access control in Network Configuration Manager. So what is role-based access control? So consider in your organization, you have different levels of network engineers to manage your network devices. And there might be a requirement not to provide all access to all the level of network engineers. So this can be sorted out with the help of role-based access control, where you can assign different role for users such as administrator role or operator role, and also can be configured to provide access only to the certain devices as well. If in case you are creating up a user account with the operator role in Network Configuration Manager, and if that particular operator user account logs into NCM and tries to perform a change on the device configuration, then the administrators will be instantly notified about that. And only if the administrator user approves the change, it will be performed on the device. So let me show you a representation of how the change will be happening when the operator tries to perform a configuration change. Now we have operator user account. So he is trying to perform a change on the configuration, device configuration. So as soon as he tries to perform the change, the administrator user will get notification about it. And if the administrator approves that, then the operator user account will get notified and the change will be performed on the device configuration. And if the administrator rejects that, even though the operator will get notifications about it. So let me show you on the GUI how we can perform this. Going back to the GUI, you have to go to settings, user management, users to create a users in network configuration manager. Let me create a operator user account and I'll show you on how the request will be sent to the administrator user. Now I have currently logged into this GUI as an administrator. I'm going to create a operator user account now. I'm clicking over add user at the top right. I'm choosing the role as operator. Here we can provide the username. You have to fill out the basic informations required to create a user account in Network Configuration Manager. Now, once you click over next, you will be requested to select the devices for which that particular operator user to have the access. So either you can select device group specific or you can select the devices individually also. So let me select few devices so that I can show you how the GUI will be looking when that particular operator user account logs in. So once I click over save, the user account will get created. Now I can log into that particular user account and I can show you how the GUI will be. I've logged in using that particular user account. Please give me a moment. I have logged in using that particular operator user account. So as you can see, we have the test operator user account, which has been logged in. And I will be having access to only the three devices which we have associated. So now consider I'm going to perform a change by executing a script on this one of this device. So I will go to configlets, CLA configlets, choose a configlet script. Once I click over execute, I will be asked to select the device. Now, once I click over execute, the request will be sent to the administrator. Now, let me log in back to the administrator to show you how the notification will be received. So once you have logged in as an administrator user account, at the top right, you will have notifications with bell symbol. So once you click over there, you will have the request received. So I have received the request from the operator user account. Once I make a click over this particular notification, I will get a detailed information about the device in which the configuration change is going to be performed and the command which is going to be executed. So I will have the options either to approve or reject it. So I can add the comments so that the operator user will get notifications about it. So this is about the role-based access control in Network Configuration Manager. So moving on, we'll see about the schedule feature in Network Configuration Manager. So NCM provides you the options to schedule the various operations which are being majorly used, such as configuration backup, configure execution, compliance check, report generation, etc. So based on the requirement, you can choose the schedule type and you can configure to perform the task automatically by the network configuration manager too. So let me show you on UI how to create up a schedule. Once you go into config automation, you can click over schedule. In order to create up a new schedule, you can click over this plus icon at the top right. You have to provide the schedule name and then the schedule type has to be selected. So consider if you want to take the configuration backup on a scheduled basis, then you can select the schedule type as configuration backup. And then here you can set for all devices. So if you want to take the backup of for all the devices, you can select the device group as all devices group. And then you have to provide the email address to receive the notification. So at the end of the schedule, you will be provided with the report with the information about how many devices has been scheduled for backup, in which how many of them got executed successfully, and then how many of them got failed. So all those details will be sent to you as an email, and then you can configure the scheduled recurrence. So whether it should be executed only once or on a monthly basis. So as per the schedule which you are configuring over here, the backup will be taken by the network configuration manager too. So this is for configuration backup. We have other operations also which can be scheduled. So consider if you want any particular report to be fetched from NCM and to be sent to your email address, you can select that particular report so that on the scheduled time, that particular report will be fetched from NCM and will be sent to your email address. Even the device discovery can be performed with the help of this schedule feature. So once you choose the schedule type as device discovery, you can provide the IP range and then you can select the appropriate credential profile. On the schedule time, all the network devices within that particular IP range will get automatically discovered in our network configuration manager too. So this is about the schedule feature in network configuration manager. So moving on, we'll see about the configuration search feature in network configuration manager. Having large number of network devices in the network, it will be a difficult process for a user when required to perform a configuration search across all the devices, as each device might have multiple versions of the backup taken. With the help of this configuration search feature, you can perform a configuration search to locate a particular string or a word on the device configuration. So let me show you on the GUI how we can perform the configuration search. Once you go into inventory devices, you can click over this icon, the file icon with a magnifying glass to perform the configuration search. So here we can perform two types of search. One is the simple search where you can provide up a string or a word and you can perform the check configuration search. Once you click over search, it will perform search for that particular content on the device configuration and it will list the entries. And the another one we have is the advanced search. So here you can specify the condition, whether the line which you're going to provide, it should be contained or should not be contained, or it should start with that particular content. Like that, you can specify the condition over here. And also we can make use of this under condition. So you can choose the under condition. So now consider I'm going to provide a string like this, contains public and contains private. So like this, you can provide the condition and then you can perform the configuration search so that it will list all the matching lines or the device configurations and you can get the information. So this is about the configuration search. Moving on, we'll see about the exclude criteria featuring network configuration manager tool. So what is exclude criteria feature? How it can be used in network configuration manager? With the help of this feature, you can configure NCM to exclude certain lines or content being considered as a change on the device configuration. So consider, for example, we might have conditions such as the time details will be included on the device configuration and it will be keep on changing so on. So in this scenario, you can create a exclude criteria in NCM to ignore the time details being considered as a configuration change. So we have two types of creating up a exclude criteria in network configuration manager. So we have line exclude and then we have block exclude. So in line exclude, you can configure to exclude certain lines on the device configuration, such as clock time being considered as a change. Whereas in the block exclude criteria, you can configure to ignore the blocks of configuration by providing the start line and the end line of the configuration. You can ignore that particular block of the configuration. So let me show you on the GUI how we can create a exclude criteria. Going back to the GUI, you can click over config automation. Here we have exclude criteria. So as I said, we have two types. One is the line exclude and the another one is the block exclude. So now consider this example, Cisco 300 series switch. So here we have created a exclude criteria to exclude this particular line, clock time, which is present on the device configuration. So since it will be keep on changing, NCM will consider it as a change and then it will perform the backup. So to ignore that, we have created this exclude criteria and we are performing the compliance, sorry, the exclude criteria and performing the backup. Now, the another example we have is the block exclude. So this block exclude will exclude a certain block on the device configuration as a change. Let me show you an example over here. So consider this particular criteria where we have provided the config block start line and the config block end line. So here we have provided the condition. So NCM will ignore this particular block on the device configuration from considering it as changes and it will perform the backup. Thus, by creating an exclude criteria, you can avoid the unnecessary configuration changes being detected by NCM and getting notifications about it. So now we'll move on to the next criteria we have is the alarms feature. Alarms features are used to notify the user about the important updates, such as the configuration changes occurred on the device or if any failures occurred on the device configuration. So the alarms will help you to keep updated about the some of the major failures such as backup failure or a change detection found on the device. So like those major failures can be notified. This alarms will get popped up on all the screens on the NCM GUI so that user can review the alarms instantly whenever it is raised. So let me show you on the GUI. Once you click over alarms, you will be able to view all the active alarms in network configuration manager. So the alarms are categorized into four types. We have critical alarms and then we have trouble alarm and then followed by that we have the service down alarm and the attention alarms. So once you click over any specific alarm, it will give you a detailed information about for which device the alarm has been generated and what is the failure which has occurred on that particular device when the alarm has been generated. So you can keep all the track with the help of this alarms feature. So up next, we are going to see about the show commands in Network Configuration Manager. So how this particular show commands will be helping you uh, from performing the various tasks. So instead of typing the commands manually by connecting to the device CLI, you can save those commands and you can select it to get executed on the device automatically. By performing this, you can save lots of time when you're going to do it on a bulk. So let me show you on the GUI where to create the show command and how it will be useful for you to get the output instantly. Going back to the GUI, so here, once you go into settings, you under device management, you can view show commands. So if you want to create a new show command, you can click over add and you can provide the command name for your reference and you have to provide the exact command. So like show version or whatever the command which you want to get executed and you want the output to be retrieved, you can provide the command over here. And then you have to select the vendor. So on which specific device vendor you are going to perform this operation. So once you have selected it, you will be able to get that option to get the commands executed. So let me show you where to execute the show command and to get the output. Going to inventory now. Let me click over the Cisco device. Once you click over any specific networking device, it will take you to the device summary page. And in this device summary page, you have to click over actions at the top. And then you have to click over execute so that you will be able to view the show command. So let me click over show command now. So now consider you want the output of the show version command. So just by clicking over this show version, it will list the output which has been received by executing that particular command. So you can click over export and you can export the output. So similarly, consider if you want to get the output of show interfaces now, you can just click over show interfaces. So it will execute the command accordingly and it will provide you the output. Thus, it can save a lot of time by just by clicking over the command which you would like to execute and you can get the relevant output from the device. So this is about the show command feature in Network Configuration Manager. Moving on, we are going to see about the reports feature in Network Configuration Manager. NCM will provide you different kinds of reports and audits, and it can be used internally by your team for performing various purposes for tracking your network devices. In the screenshot of the in this slide, we have collected the screenshot of the reports from the GUI. So here you can see we have different categories of report and it has subcategories as well. So as you can see under network report, we have subcategories as hardware inventory report, firmware inventory report. Under configuration reports, we have subcategories such as startup running conflict report, configuration changes report. So you can click over each report to get the relevant information. So let me show you on the GUI. So as we saw, the reports will have the categories as network reports, configuration reports, vulnerability reports. So each reports will have their own subcategories. So now consider if you want to get the hardware information of your network devices, you can select hardware inventory report. So it will provide you the entire information about your networking device. So it will provide you the information about the IP address or host name of your networking device, and then the series and the model number of your networking device, and then the OS type and the OS version which is being used on your networking device, and then the image file name details. So all these details will get populated over this particular report. And each report, we do have options to generate it as a PDF. So just by clicking over this PDF icon at the top right corner, this report will get generated in a PDF file format. And then we have option to export it as a CSV file format, or even we can perform it as an Excel format. Suppose consider if you want this particular report to be sent to your email address, you can just click over this mail option and you can provide your email address. So this particular report will be sent to your email. So this is a sample a report for hardware inventory. Similarly, we have configuration reports where we have startup running conflict report. So this will give you the information about the devices which has the startup running conflict issues and the devices without the startup running conflict issues. And then we have configuration changes report. So here you can view the information about the devices which has the configuration changes in it and the devices without the configuration changes. Suppose if you have a device with the configuration change, you can just click over that particular device so that it will list all the changes which has been performed on the device, when the changes were performed, on which user account they have logged in and have performed the change on the device configuration. So all those details can be tracked with the help of this configuration changes report. So like this, you can perform various options to track your network device and their status over this reports feature. So moving on, we'll be seeing about the GUI of Network Configuration Manager. So the dynamic GUI of Network Configuration Manager. With regards to the dashboard of Network Configuration Manager, we will be able to get a summarized overview of network devices being managed and their current status in this Network Configuration Manager tool. So here in dashboard, all the informations will be displayed as widgets and it can be customized as well. Also, here in NCM, we can create dynamic device groups. So based on the device vendor which you have added to Network Configuration Manager tool, you can group the devices and you can manage it accordingly. And then we have user specific retainable filters and columns so that you can align the devices accordingly. So let me show you on the real time in the GUI. Once you go to dashboard, you will get an overview of the devices which you are managing in Network Configuration Manager and their current status. So let me show you. Here we have the dashboard of Network Configuration Manager. On the left hand side, we have devices summary. So it will give you an overview of the devices which has been added and which are being currently managed in Network Configuration Manager. Whereas we have other widgets like we have configuration backup summary. So it will give you an overview about the devices in which the configuration backup was failed versus the number of devices in which the configuration backup was successful. And then we have recent changes. So here you will have the information about the device details in which the configuration changes has occurred recently. So when the changes were performed, who the user who performed the change on the device configuration. So those details can be tracked over here. So all this information will be getting updated as a widget. So you can customize this and you can align it as per the requirement which you have. So this is about the dashboard. Moving on, we'll see about the integrations in Network Configuration Manager. So NCM not only supports in-house integrations, we do have options to integrate with the third-party tools as well. So firstly, we'll see about the Op Manager integration with Network Configuration Manager tool. So what is Op Manager? Op Manager is a highly integrative solution that provides you the visibility to monitor the devices for their availability and the performance of the devices. Suppose if you have Op Manager, you can easily integrate it with NCM so that you can perform the device monitoring via Op Manager and network device configuration management using Network Configuration Manager tool. So both the tools can be accessed from the same GUI. Moving on, we are going to see about the integration with NetFlow Analyzer. So NetFlow Analyzer is a bandwidth monitoring solution and it can be used for performing the traffic analysis also. So if you have NetFlow Analyzer, it can be easily integrated with NCM. Under the same GUI, we can make use of both the products. So moving on, we'll see about the other third-party integrations which are supported in Network Configuration Manager, which are Password Manager Pro, Service Desk Plus, Service Desk Plus Cloud, and then ServiceNow. So let me explain you about the each solution. The Password Manager Pro is credential vault storage. So consider if you're having a lot of network devices in your environment, so the users cannot remember the credential for each device in their network, and it will be difficult for them to manage it. In this case, they can use the Password Manager Pro to store the credential information of all their network devices and it can be retrieved when required. So this password manager pro, it can be integrated with NCM, and the devices will get authenticated accordingly. And the next we have is the service desk plus. So if you are using a service desk plus application, whenever there is a configuration backup failure or upload configuration request raised from our network configuration manager, it will be raised as a ticket in service desk plus automatically, so that the users will come to know about it and they can perform the action accordingly. And then moving on, we have ServiceNow integration. So it is an instant logging software which provides a bidirectional data synchronization for device discovery, and it provides you the real-time alerts also. So these are the some of the third-party integrations which can be performed from NCM. However, we are planning to support the other integrations as well. So based on the request we receive, we are planning to expand the integrations with Network Configuration Manager. So we have reached the end of this training session. If you have any questions, as I said, you can post it on the chat. We have our panelists available to answer all your questions. And if you're an existing customer, you can win a gift card of $25 by simply writing a review about our network configuration manager product in Captera, so that you will be getting the gift card as well. So thank you for your valuable presence on this training session. I hope it was helpful for you.